Welcome to today's LeadCon session. My name is Jose Rivera Hernandez, and I am the Student Organizations Coordinator within Student Life and Leadership. And today's topic of conversation presentation is going to be specifically on student org operations. So it's really just sharing some tips and tricks on running effective meetings, planning events, the very simple and basic stuff that will be very beneficial to you as student leaders, especially if you're an incoming student leader in your organization. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started here. So just a little bit about the agenda here. I'm going to do a quick overview of our SLL programmatic areas, talk about some benefits of joining and starting a student org, and then talk more about some tips on running effective meetings, event planning, and of course, information on reserving outdoor and classroom spaces. There will be, or should be, plenty of time for some questions as well at the end of the presentation. So please, if you have questions too in the chat, throw them in there and I'll get to answering those towards the end of the presentation. Alrighty, so within Student Life and Leadership, there are 6 different areas that we focus on with student life. So campus activities is basically an area where we host our major events such as DisCOVERFEST, TUFFY Awards, LeadCon, which is this great event that you're a part of now. And it's really just those key events that happen within our department, and it is planned through the campus activities area. But it's really all of us just working together to execute these great events. I fall under clubs and organizations. I am, of course, the coordinator and one of your #1 resources when it comes to all student org things. I also oversee the re-reg and new org registration process. So LeadCon, as you know, is part of that re-registration process. So hopefully, our students are meeting this requirement and we can start assisting you all with unfreezing your organizations after this week, because LeadCon ends on this Thursday, the 18th. So I will be assisting with that process. We also have our community service programs and leadership area. Kyle actually oversees that area. And his area really just focuses on providing community service opportunities for student organizations and specifically overseeing the Community Services ICC Council. So he is your support there. And then we also have an area for fraternity and sorority life, and that is run by Edwin Alarid. And again, his focus is really just also supporting our FSL organizations within CSUF. Leadership programs also is an area that falls under Kyle. And then lastly, we have our sports clubs area, and that is ran by or overseen by Chris. He assists our sports club organizations. But the process of re-reg and new org registration is the same for all these organizations. So yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about these different areas so that you can familiarize yourself with what goes on within student life and leadership. All right, so now I just want to quickly jump through some benefits of starting and being a part of an organization. So if you are new to your role in your organization, congratulations. You are gonna experience a lot of these really great benefits. So the #1 thing I'd say is publicity. You have access to TitanLink. Everything is run through that system. Your events, right? Your space reservations, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Your advertising and marketing is also run through TitanLink. Also, by being part of a registered organization, you're eligible to some funding if you're specifically part of an ICC council, or even you can also request funding from ASI as well. There's also the opportunity to reserve campus facilities through TitanLink, as I just mentioned. Organization support, such as workshops such as these. Also assistance with recruitment or possible recruitment strategies, fundraising, policy interpretation. Just this additional support is available to you as a registered org. And of course, program participation in DisCOVERFEST, which is coming up in 2 weeks, and we're very excited for that. And then of course, TUFFY Awards, which is a great opportunity to recognize the hard work that your organization puts on throughout the year. So I'll talk more a little bit about that towards the end of the presentation. All right, so let's talk about running effective meetings and kind of what that looks like. An internal process that I strongly recommend is answering a few key questions, right? I think first and foremost, for any sort of meeting, any sort of event you want to tackle, really anything in life, is identifying what the purpose is. Like, what is the purpose of you gathering your members together for this meeting? What are you trying to accomplish? I think that is the number one question that you should be asking yourself when it comes to, figuring out your events, talking about goals and things that you want to accomplish throughout the year within your organization. Identify, what that purpose is. The second question you want to ask yourself is, think about your audience. Like, who is this meeting for? Is this the first meeting on the first day of school? Is it an intro meeting? Is it a meeting to discuss, like I said, long and short-term goals? Is it a meeting to talk about event planning? Is this a meeting with your members? Is this a meeting with individuals outside of your organization? So you definitely want to identify, who the audience is for this meeting. And also a big part of that is thinking about meeting logistics, right? Are you hosting this meeting on Zoom? If so, what sort of platform are you using? I think Zoom, of course, has been the most popular one. If this is an in-person meeting, do you have a space on campus? Location where you can set up and talk about, whatever items you want to talk about. So definitely thinking about the logistics, right, is a question that you want to ask yourself. Dates and times, always have a backup date for, if you're wanting to have a meeting with members and the first date you're thinking about doesn't work with everyone else, always have a backup, have that internal discussion with your members to figure that out. And then another question is, do you have an agenda? I highly, highly recommend agendas for meetings, specifically meetings where you want to tackle big projects and meetings where you want to plan events. I think it's great to have informal meetings as well, but an agenda really helps you stay on track. It really helps you tackle each of the items that you want to discuss. And I think it also makes it a lot easier for other members within your org as well to kind of follow along and kind of have those those organized discussions happen within that space. So I highly recommend an agenda. I didn't note it, but also with an agenda, you want to have some minutes. Anytime that you're making big decisions within your organization, you want to, of course, follow the Constitution, what it says in your Constitution about voting, but you want to have proof that a certain amount of money was approved, or that this event is taking place in the first state on such and such day. So agendas and minutes kind of go hand in hand, and I strongly recommend that you also make those part of your meetings as well. And then I kind of already touched on it. The last question you want to ask is agenda items. What are some key actionable items that need that special attention and that internal discussion? I think the challenging part at times is when, your organization is meeting together and you're trying to plan an event on campus, and, you're going down your agenda item as well. And then there isn't a lot of information that is being recorded or kind of tracked. And that's how things kind of slip through the cracks at times. So again, agendas and minutes will save your life when it comes to event planning and just kind of running your organization. So I highly recommend that you utilize these tools to help you, just make really great decisions and plan your events a lot smoother. So let's also not forget rules of engagement. I won't go through each of these. You can go ahead and also read the slide, but just to touch on a few, right? These are some common, practices and column rules, if you want as well, that can kind of help you have a very great conversation / discussion and have like a very organized meeting for all of you. So some of those things, of course, being a good listener really helps, right? Taking those notes, being mindful of two-way communication. If you are talking about specific items or issues that need some confidentiality, that's another big one that you want to ensure that you're keeping within your spaces. It's never okay to publicly criticize an individual or calling them out in the middle of a meeting with other members around them. So, that's something as well to kind of be mindful of. When it comes to management practices, Of course, you want to be responsible for your effective administrative functions, your duties and responsibilities. You want to be a team player. I think another thing that we sometimes forget about is just how important it is to collaborate with within your organization and then outside of that as well, because you can accomplish a lot more working together than just, working individually or in silos. So that is a really big one as well. Of course, I have to mention university perspective, right? Empowering each other to be effective, encouraging each other is a big one. Respect diversity while working towards unity. So that's another big one. That DEI component piece needs to be in all of your conversations, right? In your event planning, in your meetings, just really try to include it in all your discussions, because that piece is also very important to be mindful of, to try to be inclusive, or to be inclusive, I should say. And it's something good to just think about. But yeah, these are just some rules of engagement, some good practices that you want to include in your meetings. All right, so I do have a question for all of you, just hoping, to make this a pretty interactive presentation. I'll go ahead and read the question, and then Kyle should be sending out a poll in just a few seconds. So if you all can please answer that poll, that would be awesome. But you are leading a club meeting to discuss preparations for a food vendor you're hoping to bring for a major event on campus. You wish to discuss two vendors. Vendor one has a robust food menu, but is on the pricier side compared to vendor two. Vendor two, of course, is much more affordable, but offers less on their menu. You're thinking of moving forward with vendor one, but are unsure, and you ask your club members to provide their thoughts. You don't see, hear, or sense any disagreement, and one student says, sounds fine. Should the discussion end? So take a moment to answer the poll, and then we can kind of talk about the results after.
Can everyone see the results, or is it only me?
No, I think it's only you.
Okay, so I'll give everyone an update. So far, 5 people have said yes, a member said it was fine, and 53 have said not necessarily, more discussion should be had.
All right, I think it's safe to say not necessarily more folks voted for that. And that, in my opinion, is correct, right? That, I think, is the answer I was looking for. I think, again, going back to just really talking about those actionable items, taking it and having those discussions within your meetings is really key. There's also budget conversation going on here, right? There's some confliction with the menu. It could also be a budget issue. We may not be able to afford the pricier vendor. Let's talk about this more, right? This is one of those scenarios where the more conversation that is had within your organization, the better. So yes, thank you for taking the time to answer that poll. And the answer I was looking for was not necessarily more discussion should be had. So that's awesome. All right, let's move on to the next section, and that is Event Planning 101. So some additional tips that I like to recommend with event planning is answering the 5 W's of event planning. I'm not sure if everyone has heard of those, but it's really the who, what, where, when, and why. Like, who is this event for? Again, kind of understanding who that target audience is. What event is taking place? So understanding the purpose of, what is going on, understanding, how this is all going to function together. When is the event taking place? Scheduling a date and time, and that important information to send out to individuals that maybe want to participate, want to know about it. Where is the event taking place? So location, again, is a big part of the event planning piece. Is this going to be on Zoom? Is this going to be on campus? So all great questions to ask yourself. And again, why is also another purpose question. Like, why is this event happening? Like, why should we put our time and energy into planning this? So I believe that once you've hit, each of these questions, and you are, in addition to a couple of other things, right, you are ready to start planning that event. You just have to answer these questions to kind of get you started. Of course, you also want to think about a budget, right? If you're having food on at this event, you want to talk numbers within your organization. You want to meet about it. You want to also, record any voting that is happening and have that in your minutes in case you need extra approval from a different department on campus. And then again, let's not forget to be inclusive. That DEI conversation should be had in all of your spaces, especially when it comes to event planning. And then another great tip is post-event assessment. So really what this is, it just tells you how the event went and what things you can use from that survey or that assessment to improve on for next year's event. So this is actually something that we do in our department for all of our events and even workshops that take place. And it is very helpful to us in just making sure that we're not making the same mistakes, or that we're also really taking into consideration the students' feedback. So I strongly recommend that you also have some sort of assessment piece after your event takes place. And of course, that is something that you can also discuss at your next organization meeting with your members. So just some key tips there. And then some additional logistics to consider. I may have already mentioned a few of those, but for the space, right? If your event is in person, what size room is needed? If online, what platform will you be using? Consider having a backup space if your preferred space is not available. Services, will you be serving food? Will you need security at your events? Supplies, do you need to print anything out? Tickets, posters, etc. Do you need decorations for your event? And of course, choosing a date, making sure that you're double checking with the schedule of your members, and of course, you're not conflicting with days that religious holidays or days that wouldn't work, or when the campus is closed. And of course, marketing is another great piece, right? How soon will you start promoting the event? What are you using to promote that event? I know nowadays social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter are the really big names right now for promoting information, even TikTok now. So I know I get my news from TikTok, as crazy as this sounds. Like, there's a lot of great resources on TikTok nowadays. So just another piece that you can use to promote your event. And then what does that promotion campaign look like? So just some additional questions to ask yourself as you're thinking about these things in your club spaces. Oh, and I believe, oh no, that's right. Okay. So now I want to talk about Campus Activities Committee. And what this is, it's really a space for our organizations that are planning events that may require a little bit more input from campus partners, right? So that these specific meetings are for events that are more larger scale, large crowds, may require multiple spaces on campus, definitely need a little bit more planning and a little more thought to be put into them. So the way that this works is, actually, let me go to the next slide here. I think that explains it. So once you submit and there's another slide that'll explain it better, but once you submit an event request on Titan Link, we will review that information and we will determine if your event needs that further guidance and further consultation from campus partners. We will send you this form, and this is the form that you will fill out, basically request, we need this information, and this is the information that you need to send us in order for us to proceed with having you attend at a campus activities meeting. So take a quick look. We of course require the main contacts information. We require information about your event, preferred event date, time, location, budget, of course, is another thing you want to think about. And then of course, like if your event is on campus and you're using multiple spaces, we do need a map and kind of locations of the spaces that you'll be utilizing. So again, once you submit an event request and you've selected a location, we will send you this document and we will let you know if this event needs attention in college or in campus activities meeting or not. So do make a note of that. This is another graphic, pretty much just explaining what I just explained. So if your event has, if there is crowd management that needs to take place, if it's an off-campus vendor that you're inviting, if you even have off-campus guests and speakers, if there's physical activity involved, all these things would will basically have you attend the campus activities meeting for that further consultation with campus partners. So I do want you to kind of just make a note of that as well. That is an important piece to an event planning that we as a department kind of assist you with as well, because risk management is another big component that we, don't want anything going wrong at all. There's just so many moving parts with that. So it's time for another question. So Kyle again will be sharing a poll in just a sec, but for this second question, a student club is planning to host a 5K walkathon event on campus in order to raise funds. The event will require the use of multiple locations and is likely to attract a large crowd. The club hosting this event is not planning to participate in the actual physical activities, but will instead table. The event is 3 months away. What is the level of risk for this event?
So far, it's looking like it's pretty split. Right now, it's exactly split between medium and high. 18 people, 19 medium, 21 high. Low is the lowest response. So far, only 4 people have said low. Lots of people saying medium and high. Right now, medium is in the lead. Looks like, yeah, we could staying about that way.
Okay, perfect. So, wow, that's great. So it's medium takes it by 4%. It's actually high, right? But it's very close. Like I'm pretty impressed. That's awesome. What makes it high is the large crowd and the multiple locations. This could also it could tiptoe between medium and high, to be honest. So it could go both ways. And again, that would be further determined in the college activities meeting after consultation with campus partners. But I'll give you medium high. That's perfectly fine. It kind of tiptoes between the two. But what does make this an event that needs that extra attention from campus partners is that the large crowds and the multiple locations that would be used for this event. So yeah, great job, everyone. All right, so now I want to talk about reserving outdoor and classroom spaces. And this is actually done through Titan Link. If you're not familiar or need a refresher about that. But all club and organization presidents, treasurers, and event planners can reserve these spaces through Titan Link. Something to note here is that athletic spaces must be reserved through the Kines and athletics area. And Titan Union or TSU spaces must go through the University Conference Center. All this is still done through Titan Link, but they are the official approvers for the specific spaces. Which you can reserve through Titan Link and through our department is outdoor spaces and classroom spaces. So I'll jump over to the next slide here. And these are the spaces that are available to all of you to reserve through our area, especially once LeadCon attendance is met and you're fully registered, you will have access to reserve these spaces in Titan Link once your organization is unfrozen. And so how does this process work? Just to give you some good information on it. So basically is you'll submit a request for space in Titan Link. That request is an event request form, and it's a form that we do have available and accessible to all our organizations. There is about a 7-day turnaround. And it also, what Titan Link does is that or you can track your progress. I'm sorry, you can track your progress of your submission, and you will receive confirmations electronically. And once everything is good to go, you're also able to automatically advertise through Titan Link once the request has been approved. So just if you were curious on how to get to that page, you would go to Organization Tools and click Events, and that should direct you to the event request form. Once this is done, what will happen is there's a section here where you'll be able to add your location. You can also switch your event to an online location if it's a Zoom, and you'll be able to insert that information there. Once your form has been submitted, we will review it and we will determine whether you need to speak to or attend a campus activities meeting. And depending on the complexity and how large that event is, that'll determine if you need to attend or not. I highly recommend all of you to submit your requests as early as possible once you have access, because the approval times can vary depending on the size or complexity of the event. So just something to be mindful of. You do want to make sure that you're submitting these requests on time so that you're able to have everything looked at accordingly and in a very good timeline. Because I think the worst thing that could happen is you're not able to host your event if it's a really big event and you're literally like 2 or 3 weeks away. I don't think it'll happen if you haven't met CAC requirements. So do try to submit these documents in early.
Jose, can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah.
So not specifically related to CAC, but just about the event submission process. I just want to give everyone like an update / reminder. For the first few weeks of school, especially, things are very busy, especially in our office. All 300 clubs are unfrozen around the same time. So we get like 300 submissions, clubs submitting weekly events, plus any other large scale events all coming in right at the beginning. And then mixed in with that, we can't officially confirm any classroom spaces until after the 3rd week of school because academics is still moving scheduling around. So just want to give everyone a reminder that for the first few weeks of school, things are tentative and just this is a longer process before they get approved.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Thank you. Yeah, great point as well. So again, just try to get your forms in early so that we have enough time to review everything. And then of course we're not able to reserve classroom spaces until after the 3rd weeks or after 3 weeks. So just to be mindful of that. And I think I already talked about the slides, so I'm going to go ahead and skip it. So yeah, I have one final question for all of you, and this is just honestly some personal. I just want to hear some feedback, and please be as honest as you'd like to be, or as honest as you can or want to be in the chat. But I'm just curious to know, what do you all like or dislike the most about TitanLink? So I'll give you a minute or two to just type out your response, and of course, if it's feedback that is possible to be achieved, we will always do our best to improve things, if we're able to. So with TitanLink, because I know sometimes it could be a little bit buggy, but yeah. So please feel free. Please answer this question in the chat. Just curious to know what your responses are. It's really easy to register for events, and the reminder emails are helpful when the events get closer. Yep, I agree. It is not well known on campus and many students don't know about it. Yeah, that's another great point. This is it can be a really great system, but I think marketing it has always been a challenge, but that's definitely something we want to improve on as well. So thank you for that. Yeah, many students don't know about TitanLink. Let's see. I would like text alerts when events gets rescheduled. Yeah, there is a way to do that. We can send mass messages and emails, or emails through TitanLink. So that's something that is pretty neat about it. Okay, so I don't like the way the roster process is set up. I've been having trouble adding people on my roster for the club. Yeah, sometimes it's can be frustrating for sure. I don't think I'm necessarily a huge fan of the way the roster is also set up. So I agree with that. Also, not all clubs update their page on TitanLink. Yeah, so that would also be very helpful, right? having that meeting and talking about your tightening page specifically could be really beneficial, and ideally something that I recommend all of you to do like early in the semester before things get kind of crazy. So yeah, just dedicating some time to talk about your webpage, will go a long ways for sure. Really appreciate all this feedback. Thank you. This is awesome. Yeah, so this is an interesting one, and I could see that. I agree. Titling gets ignored unless something is absolutely required through it. And part of the challenge is like, how can titling be made a little bit more, let's say, user friendly, or make it be just something that is kind of on our minds just for the purpose of event planning or helping the org just function successfully. But it is tough, and I think sometimes too it can be overwhelming for new users, which I understand why we want to shut our brains off from it sometimes. So I agree with that. Awesome, everyone. Well, thank you so much for sharing your comments in the chats. I will thoroughly review these as well. And we'll see I can't make any promises, but I do appreciate the feedback. And maybe there may be some things we can do to make the TitanLink experience a little bit better for our students. So thank you for that. Alrighty, so I am almost getting ready to wrap up, but there are a few announcements and a few shout outs I do want to remind all of you of. So of course, DiscoverFest is our 2-day in-person event that is happening August 30th and 31st from 11 to, oh, that is actually a typo. It's 11 to 2 p.m. Here on campus. And just as a reminder, if your organization is not fully registered, you unfortunately will not be able to participate. So if you haven't submitted a re-reg form, or presidents and treasurers haven't done their officer training, and then you're not attending these sessions, of course, then please do so. You won't be able to participate in DiscoverFest if you are not fully re-registered. And if you're on your way there, that's awesome. Keep it up. This will be a really great opportunity for you to share your club organization's information with students on campus. And this typically is a pretty big event. Oh,
quick question. So is it too late to do DiscoverFest then?
No, it is not too late. So the last LeadCon session, it ends this Thursday, August 18th, and that one is mandatory by all the members of an org, or at least one member, right? It's the president's panel. So it is not too late. Theoretically, it'd be nice if you all could finish the requirements before the 25th. No, I'm sorry, before the 30th. And then we have a deadline for re-registration on August 31st. But of course, if you want to make the DiscoverFest deadline as soon as possible, as soon as the 18th is here and LeadCon is over, please submit, or please finish those requirements so that we can place you and that you can have a table on campus. We also will have a wait list, but again, this will fill up fast. So as soon as the 18th hits, please finish those re-registration requirements if you haven't done so already.
And yeah, there's another question in the chat. So yeah, DiscoverFest, you're allowed to sign up before you're finished re-registering. So you can sign up now. You could sign up anytime over the summer. And then we give the tables out based on who signed up first, as long as they met all re-registration requirements. So if someone signed up the first day but didn't finish re-registering, they won't get a table.
Correct. Thank you, Kyle.
Jonathan, yeah, you'll get confirmation. You'll get a table assignment like right before DiscoverFest, because we want to give orgs as long as possible to finish the re-registration process. So like maybe probably less than a week to like a couple days before, you'll be notified that you have a table. Yeah, if you submitted this DiscoverFest form, you're just waiting until the 18th.
Can I ask some questions afterwards?
Yep. Yeah, we'll have time for questions for sure. Alrighty, so let me power through the next few slides, and yes, there will be plenty of time for questions. So this is just another reminder about the re-registration process. We are currently in the re-reg timeline. So again, I mentioned August 31st being the deadline for our organizations, and it is a 3-step process. The re-reg form, which a lot of you have submitted, which is awesome. Officer training in Canva, and then of course LeadCon attendance, which concludes this Thursday, August 18th. So just as a reminder there. And then lastly, this is more of a save the date. We do have a date for TUFFY Awards, which is May 4th, next spring. And this is just a great opportunity for our organizations to be recognized for the hard work they are going to do this upcoming semester and year. So just as a little shout out there, TUFFY Awards is a really great opportunity, and do save the date. That is May 4th, 2023. And I believe that is it. This is my last slide. These are just some additional resources for all of you. TitanLink news articles are uploaded on the daily and revised as well. There is information on the remaining LeadCon sessions that we have this week, DiscoverFest and re-registration. You could also learn more about our how these processes work in our YouTube channel, our Student Life and Leadership YouTube channel. And of course, we're always posting content on Instagram, so do give us a follow. And with that, that concludes my presentation.